Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us today. I'm Katie Monahan, and I'm a communications strategist here at the Ohio Arts Council. And I'm excited to welcome you to today's webinar, Unlock Your Community Genius. And we are super proud to present this webinar in partnership with our friends at the AIR Institute. And we will properly introduce you to both Beth Flowers and Emily Prince here in just a minute. But before we dive in, there are, of course, just a few housekeeping items that I need to go over first. So first, if you're a frequent OAC webinar attendee, you may have noticed that today's setup is a little bit different than usual. We're in a Zoom meeting rather than a Zoom webinar. So you'll see a few more options available to you there in your control panel. And if any of you happen to know Beth Flowers, you know that she is a bit of a Zoom whiz, and there's a pretty good chance she's going to incorporate a few of these features and functions into today's webinar. So we encourage you to participate when prompted to do so. It's going to be great. That said, until that time, we just ask that out of respect for our presenters and the other attendees, please keep yourselves muted until prompted to do otherwise, just to prevent from distracting from the presentation. If you do have a question, go ahead and use the chat function. We'll monitor those throughout the webinar. We'll leave plenty of time to answer questions at the end as well. And next, live captioning is available for today's webinar, and you can access those captions by clicking on the closed captioning icon and selecting Show Subtitle. And if you have audio issues or trouble connecting, we recommend refreshing your browser. And if that doesn't work, try logging off and logging back in. And please keep in mind that because we are presenting from separate locations, there may be some variation in bandwidth or internet stability. So if the sound fluctuates or one of us freezes up for a minute, thank you in advance for bearing with us. I promise we will keep on rolling through any technical difficulties. And finally, we are recording today's webinar, and the recording will be available on our webinars page at oac.ohio.gov/webinars and on our YouTube channel by the end of this week. So, all right, that does it for housekeeping items. Next up, I'd like to welcome my colleague, Kat Sheridan. Kat is the director of the OAC's Rife Gallery here in downtown Columbus, and she also serves as the liaison for AIR Institute activities in Ohio. So Kat is the perfect person to give you a little bit of background on the OAC AIR partnership, and she's going to introduce today's speakers. So welcome, Kat. I will let you take it from here.
Thank you, Katie. And repetition is good, so I'll just say it again. Hello and welcome, everyone. My name is Kat Sheridan. I'm the director of the Ohio Arts Council's Rife Gallery, as well as the OAC's liaison for AIR Institute activities in Ohio. Tiny bit of background for you. The Ohio Arts Council is partnered with the AIR Institute, which is a national program that we refer to simply as AIR, and have for several years. The partnership began with full funding support from the Emily Hall Tremaine Foundation. Those early years allowed us the opportunity to provide training to Ohioans in rural areas of the state. And now, because the program has been such a positive success, we continue the AIR work, and the Ohio Arts Council is investing resources to train Ohioans from across the state as AIR certified facilitators. These investments allow us to bring programming that inspires new connections and ignites the creative economy in communities of all sizes. Our Ohio-trained facilitators will tell you through the workshops provided that they've seen creative people expand business skills, business people get more creative, and everyone learn to collaborate better, adapt, and thrive together. In other words, our workshops are bringing people together across Ohio to invigorate and build our creative economy. Bonus perk, our certified facilitators can earn additional income providing these workshops. So today we're going to hear from the staff of AIR about the various programs and the unique AIR approach, and you'll learn a bit about how you can become a facilitator and how your community can become involved and benefit from this great work. So what I really enjoy about the AIR Institute programs is the way in which it helps communities and individuals recognize the talents within the uniquely activate their creative economy. But enough from me. Let's go ahead and get to the good stuff. It is my pleasure to introduce to you the folks of AIR Institute. Beth Flowers is the executive director, and Emily Prince is the training and activation director. Now to you, Beth and Emily.
Thank you, Kat, and welcome everyone. Right now, I would love to turn it over to Beth to start, but it looks like we may have lost her. So I shall soldier on. And oh, she's there. Beth, you're back.
I'm just back. Sorry. See, we've had our first internet glitch. So welcome. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. Sorry about that. There's a mention of how the internet works so well until it doesn't. So it's really my pleasure and our pleasure to be with you today. We are so delighted to really see the wonderful work that's happening in Ohio and to meet all the people who make Ohio such a wonderful and creative place. So today we're gonna cover just a couple of things. Emily, if you can advance the slide. One more, maybe.
Are you looking for the agenda?
Yes.
We're there.
All right. So here's what we're going to do today. We have done a quick welcome to this program. We're going to do a little bit of Zoom training just to get everyone comfortable in the space and make sure you have a few extra tips. And then we're going to talk about AIR itself. We're going to do an overview of what the AIR programs are and how they work. We're going to talk about the creative economy and the creative economy growth process that AIR uses to actually really activate our community genius. And then we're going to go through the workshops and the programs in detail. So we're going to show a few videos, we're going to do a little bit of teaching, and then for sure we want to talk with you about how to get involved and to answer any of the questions that you may have. So with no further ado, I'm so excited that Emily Prince is going to be presenting for you because apparently my internet is unstable. So that is a good thing that it is not me. But Emily has been with the AIR Institute since September 1st. Which is a delight for us as an organization, but happened because of the wonderful work that has been happening in Ohio. Emily was in our first cohort of trained AIR facilitators and has been now in multiple shift workshops and evolve cohort. She's done a lot of ABBA workshops and helped pilot all of the work that we did during the COVID issues that we're all having, and to make our programs hybrid and available to anyone. So I will stop talking and pass it on to Emily.
Thanks, Beth. And so everyone, what we do at the AIR Institute, we like to start off with introducing the concept of grace and empathy. Please give yourself grace to have your camera off, for the internet to be unstable, have empathy for everyone. And this is good practice for when you're in your community to understand that we're all going through something all the time, especially now when we're all in a global pandemic and there are different levels of where people are within that pandemic. So give yourself some grace and give your community, feel some empathy. So this is our extremely brief this will be our Zoom portion of the training, although we do it more extensively for our facilitators in our community so that they know how to access our programs. But just make yourself comfy. If you want to make your slides bigger, there should be a bar if you're on your desktop app that you can move to make the people smaller and the slides bigger. If you want to see more of the gallery, you can grab that silver bar and move it over to the left. You can be in speaker view, you can be in gallery view, full screen or exit full screen. You can rename yourself. You can chat specifically. If you want to chat something right to Kat Sheridan, you can click over her name and send a chat right to her. So that's part of our AIR culture, which is in Zoom and in person. We stand up, we walk around, you can take notes, doodle, crochet, use fidgets, cross stitch. You can eat and drink on camera. Nobody cares. So we behave as if we were just in an in-person meeting. Actually, maybe we behave a little bit better than we did when we were in person. So all of our programs tie our heritage and our culture to our creative economy. Our history and culture ground our creative economy and our unique story, people, and place. So connect your local place and your native peoples to your local creative economy and businesses, events, or organizations that tell your story. We do a land acknowledgement. The land that surrounds us is part of who we are. It reflects our histories. We pay respect to elders, past and present. So please take a moment to consider the many legacies of migration, displacement, violence, and settlement that brings us together here today, and join us in uncovering such truths at any public events. I'm Zooming to you today from Canaanville, Ohio, which are the traditional homelands of the Adena, the Hopewell, and the Shawnee people. Every community owes its existence and vitality to generations from around the world who contributed their hopes, dreams, and energy to making history that led to this moment. Some were drawn here, some were brought against their will, and some have lived to this land for more generations than can be counted. Truth and acknowledgement are critical to building mutual respect and connections. Your creative economy tells the story of your community. So when we're talking about unlocking community genius, we want you to know that you have everything you need in your communities right now. So it includes the unique people, businesses, history, places, and events that make your community special. And the creative economy is the easiest to support and grow because they're already invested in your community. Now we're going to get into a brief AIR overview about what and who we are. So meet your trainers today. You heard from Beth. You're going to hear from her a little bit throughout this webinar. So Beth, say hi again, give a wave. And Kat Sheridan is your director for AIR programs in Ohio. Kat, give a little wave. So if you need anything right now, there they are. You know where to find them. So the mission of the AIR Institute is to provide rural and under-resourced communities with programming that inspires new connection and ignites the creative economy. Creative people expand business skills, business people get more creative, they learn to collaborate, adapt, and thrive together. You're working with the AIR Institute to see how you can grow your local creative economy, or you should be. The AIR mission is all about this work, and the AIR vision imagines a world where every local community leverages their creative people and places to thrive. AIR ignites creative economies worldwide by unlocking community genius, and that is our vision. Our value statement are: we believe that a diversity of people, opinions, and experiences at decision-making tables make communities and economies stronger. We believe that historic and current inequities must be addressed and remedied. So this is something we're working towards all the time with our programs. We work to ensure that our communities have full access to essential education tools and resources that build self-determination, resilience, cultural equity, and creativity. We practice and teach consensus-based collaboration, and we believe every community is unique and should define its own measure of success, quality of life, economic stability, individual accessibility, and opportunity. So our programs won't work without you. And I'm going to share this video, which highlights the AIR story.
AIR is based on a belief that art and creativity can save the world. The reality of our world right now is we are confused and isolated and alone, in spite of being more connected than we ever have been before. The concept AIR is helping us imagine how we can use our creative juices, the thing that makes us human, figure out how to solve the biggest problems that humanity is facing. Easy ways of thinking that may not always be right, but they are a jumping off point for inspiration. AIR is designed to help make those solutions come forward. Walked away from my artistic career and went into politics and community development and nonprofit management. And I spent the beginnings of my career working directly in the system, not imagining how much art really could be impacting the world if I had taken my creative path. Inside me, I felt something change, which was a realization that art is what brings people together, what touches our souls, what moves us to action, which helps us find common ground and connection in a way that no law and no policy ever will. That was the beginning of where the concept of AIR came from. What we do with AIR is create a fertile ground. We prepare the soil, we bring in the right nutrients so that it's possible to grow a person as an artist or as a small business person who's interested in being more creative and innovative and community focused in the way that they do their work. And what the programs do is nurture those seeds of ideas, those seeds of community, and what comes from that are these richer experiences. 85% of our Evolve participants say that they have significantly more financial resources after doing our programs. That's a big deal, and most of it is because they've built a network for themselves. They've built their own garden, built the people that they can pull on who help fertilize their ideas and their businesses in a way that keeps them from quitting, from giving up. So most of what AIR is doing is helping people connect and giving them basic skills and tools that are not rocket science. There's no silver bullet to save everyone's life, but what we do help them realize is that their community and their friends and their family can help save their lives. So when we started actually designing the curriculum for AIR, a crazy thing happened. A whole bunch of people came to a public meeting that was about arts professional development curriculum design. Can you think of anything more boring? But we had 120 people show up to a public meeting, and half of them were not artists. They were business people, lawyers, accountants, educators, nonprofit leaders, and they were there because they wanted to be more creative and they didn't know how to access artists. They were afraid of artists. They were starting to share that they were as worried, as confused and frightened by the new economy as all of the artists were, who were telling us, we don't understand how to work in galleries, the music industry is upside down, publishing is crazy, and what do we do about intellectual property? At this point, when digital technology makes everything gray, and a light bulb went off, we realized we had a different other who normally never hang out, don't spend time together. They feel like they are so different, who had a ton in common. And so we designed programs that bring artists and business people and communities together to learn how to speak each other's language, to learn how to collaborate, and to learn how to use design thinking and creative processes to do smart business planning that is sustainable. So we help build an entrepreneurial spirit for the whole community together, and magic things are happening. So what we find is that people's lives are so much richer when they embrace a little bit of that creative side. So whether it's that you are a great chef, or that you like to garden, or that maybe you have a hobby as a musician or as a writer, being able to access that more in your life actually helps you be a better business person and a better community member. And that's where the spirit of AIR is recognizing that bringing out in each other our native talents, and for some people that is spreadsheets. We want to find and get these folks together and help them learn how to speak each other's language and make a richer tapestry for their community and for their lives.
Okay, PowerPoint's over. Just kidding. What is the creative economy growth process? So I want to take a look, you to take a look at this arts and culture number, and from the 2017 industry sector comparisons. 877,809,406,086. So it's the second largest contributor to the economy, right behind retail, and that's billions. It's 45% of, or 4.5% of the US economy. It's 5,100,889 jobs. So when you compare the National American Industry Classification System data, arts and culture rank higher than many other industries. Only retail has a higher percentage of revenues. Take a look at what the creative economy includes. It's advertising, architecture, art, craft beverages, fashion, design products, culinary arts, crafts, film, music, performing arts, publishing and print, ebooks, video games, TV and radio, toys and games, and software. And it's supported by cultural heritage, festivals and events, parks and trails, history and arts museums, campuses and libraries, galleries and music venues are all working in concert supporting these creative industries. So you need to think about those orange boxes are the businesses that are included as part of the creative economy. And the green boxes are the cultural tourism related institution, places, and organizations that also contributed to the creative economy and help drive businesses to the orange businesses. So this is what you should be thinking about in your community right now. So here's how we do it. The creative economy, grow your creative economy by gathering often, learning, and doing. So this iterative process where we're getting together, we're learning, and we're moving into action. The gathering process inspires hope, empathy, self-reliance. New leaders come out and are identified. It shows us where we can locally invest and diversify our economy. So we have 3 programs right now that are available, and it's the Arts Builds, Business Builds Art Workshop, the ABBA Workshop, depending on where in Ohio you're from, which is a 90 to 120 minutes. My Cleveland people, if you're here, I hope you got that. A 90 to 120 minutes, a large group, and it talks about the creative economy process, about community development, and introduces design thinking through an empathy exercise. We have a shift workshop that is 18 hours, 12 to 36 people in facilitated teams. It's usually about 3 days where we take a deeper dive into design thinking and business planning. And each teams are developed and they create implementable projects that raise the value of arts and business. The Evolve program is a 6 to 9 month program and up to 15 in a cohort. And that's where you really get into what your creative venture is, your nonprofit program. You're doing design thinking and learning about being a lean startup, prototyping with real-time feedback. And then you develop a mastermind team of people who will stay with you throughout the development of your project. So what we're using is a train the trainer model. These are local facilitators. So you're going to want in your community to be able to access local people who are working with you and supported by AIR staff, but everything is coming up out of your own community. And this is what helps us develop systemic change. So we're going to raise the value of arts and creativity by embedding the AIR system in systems and institutions like state and regional arts councils, the Ohio Arts Council, for example. We're working in small business development centers. We're now working in emergency preparedness and mitigation, and we're working in education, high schools, and college, so that empathy is leading, we're design thinking, we're prototyping, and we're raising the value of arts and business. So here's what happens. It's the shift. Artists and creatives help businesses and communities thrive. So we're encouraging cross-sector collaboration because it works. And the internet opens up new markets so we can live where we feel inspired. And even now, think about like people who are working from home and working for an organization that is in Frederick, Maryland. Everybody shifts. And to do this, we have to change the way we think. We all shift what we think about art, business, community, and success. So artists and creatives can expand their career paths, and businesses can break out of ruts. Communities solve problems by engaging creative people and businesses together, because when we're all in the room and we can all, if artists and businesses are thinking differently, they'll find they're a complement to each other. But we understand that change is hard. So our brains can't process this much change, and regulations can't keep up. And we have to learn new ways to be open to new facets, to rethink, to process and change our hearts and mind. And this AIR programs in your community, this book will help, but in addition, it's informing how we're working together. So design thinking is something that can help us process change that's happening. It's human-centered design. It starts with empathy. It encourages cross-sector collaborations and teams, fast prototyping, and it's used to solve problems, not just create products. So you can learn how to empathize, then you define in our programs what's happening in the community, you ideate, you think of, these are things that I think might help solve what we've identified or heard from the community, you prototype, you test, you empathize, and it goes around in a circle. Collaboration helps. You need to work with people who aren't like you. Innovative companies have cross-sector teams. It helps develop new ideas. People and experiences can improve our own ideas and our own communities. Business planning process helps too. You can assess risk and fail softer. You can define what success means for you or your community. We'll provide you a project canvas that helps you research and troubleshoot, and the process makes working with a team easier, because you can always go back and think about what was that idea we had? What is our goal? What are we trying to solve? What are we empathizing with? So here is a video for a shift workshop that was done in Patrick County, Virginia.
I think my favorite part is the idea of coming together of a bunch of people with different ideas and different backgrounds, and putting you together to come up with an idea based on a lot of our own personal experiences and professional experiences.
It's fun to really decide upon a project and make a presentation in a matter of, less than 3 days.
What do you like to do? Do you like to create? Do you like to farm? Do you like to grow? Do you like to sculpt? I receive other people's passions and their creativity, and it fuels my own. So it's a very give and take, and I definitely picked up on that here. It was prominent.
And they are running things.
I think it's an awesome thing. Okay, so back to music and community. Definitely feel more connected, especially after working with business leaders here in the community, other artists, and it's just been a really eye-opening experience of the people here in the community.
It helped me realize that art's not just crayons and markers and paint. Art's being creative. I work with a lot of farmers. They're constantly coming up with ways to mend and patch. Somebody that takes an old school method of like making molasses. That's an art.
I think so many times we get stuck in our own heads and we have ideas and we're not necessarily as open to thinking outside of our little box, and this workshop forces you to do that and surprises you in a lot of ways of ideas that are generated that you would not have come up with on your own.
And they can go visit each place in each community and actually spend their money. And
Regardless of background or whatever, you can all come together for a common goal and, achieve, something that's good for the community that everybody could benefit from.
It'll be an incremental step in making visiting the county and using the resources of the county much easier.
Because we need that connection for not only tourism and bringing people here into the county, but we need it for our connection with each other.
I think it could be a really jumping off point to further the momentum of creativity and productivity in this area.
So what are they talking about? They're talking about the Community Collaboration Project. This is developed in a shift workshop. It's designed to address a local issue. It will include people who don't work or play together. It has a 1-year timeline, a $10,000 or less budget, and it can happen with who or whatever you already have. So small scale projects are low risk and can succeed quickly. You don't need a savior to come into your community because you have everything you need right there, and it can be small. So you have local opportunities. You may have a local food culture. You have deep history. You have cultural groups. What's your immigrant history? What's the history of your native peoples? What's your local nature, your spiritual and religious practices? Here is, I went through a shift workshop with cohorts from Athens and Nelsonville in Athens County in 2019. A project that was developed there is called I Am Nelsonville, which was a presentation of place, and it was designed to put rural people in charge of their own narrative. And it morphed and developed into something much larger with support from the Ohio Arts Council to develop a curriculum for 8th grade students in storytelling and presenting their local cultural history. We got a few recorders. We started interviewing people, and now we have a bank of stories and local history that are being saved and recorded so that we can put rural people in charge of their narrative. And it was easy, and it was not that expensive. It was under a $10,000 budget, and it's just an example of using what you have. Here's another great example of implemented community collaboration project in Virginia.
When I think about Rising Tide Market and the scope of it, it's pretty remarkable. We've got kids doing absolutely everything. We've got crafters, we've got artists, we've got photographers, we've got farmers.
I sell marigolds, spider plants, and devil's ivy. Cucumbers, tomatoes, and okra.
Paracord, dog leashes, lanyards, glitter slime, and regular slime.
3 wizards, 1 alligator.
Baked goods like biscotti, and one of my best sellers, pizza.
Watercolor cards, earrings, cuffs, bracelets.
So after the Rise and Shine Market is over, I'm headed to Virginia Tech to study horticulture with an emphasis on education, and I hope to return back to Patrick County.
By promoting my ability to cook, I'll be getting my name out there. That's always been one of my long-term dreams, to own a fully functioning restaurant.
The kids have been just so amazed at this opportunity. They really have stepped up to the challenge. There's just such a sense of pride among all of them. They want their booths to look the best. They want to put out their best product. They're just really, really excited.
Anything else you want to say?
I think that's about it.
So that was a project for these kids to sell at this market stand that wasn't being used on Saturdays. They came in through the warm months, and now this project has been adopted by the local 4-H and has been going on for a couple of years. It was something that started small, and then it could expand, and they found that there were local people who could adopt it. So the next step after your shift is the Evolve Ventures. And in 2020 to 2021, there were 2 cohorts in Virginia and in Ohio. Out of these Evolve, this 9-month program, there was a ceramics artist and gallery, solar powered generators, county economic development director, a toy company, a dance studio, a music venue, a tap house, textile artist. There's a job training site and some other things that have come out of these cohorts of people who are now meeting regularly. In the Ohio cohort, I know that we're still meeting, as I was part of that venture. Here is the story of the Evolve workshop in Patrick County.
I went in the first round with the intention of helping our air shift workshop, but by the end of it, I really wanted to hone in on my dream.
My wife, Sarah, is a facilitator in it. She kind of twisted my arm a little bit, along with a few other friends who have taken the program before.
Evolve forces anyone that goes through this program to hash out the issues that they need to understand before taking a risk.
It was a little bit stressful because it made me do the things I needed to do, you know, and I was trying to procrastinate.
Almost overwhelming enough that I thought maybe this was too much for me to do. The more and more I kind of read into things and just, you know, learned the process of doing a budget, it kind of felt easier for me. It made me breathe a little easier.
The time that the second workshop rolled around, I feel a lot more confident and excited to go to the next step.
To actually get help to understand through the whole process, through the budget process, through everything, was an amazing experience.
Being able to see other people's ventures and see their struggles and see what they're working on was really helpful.
In primarily Appalachian communities, a lot of the communities are isolated and there aren't a lot of job opportunities, so a lot of the young people are leaving.
The people aren't excited about living there and feel that they have their touch on a place, then they just feel disconnected from the place that they live.
Entrepreneurship and startup culture is not really here. I think if everybody did evolve, that would change really quickly.
It's been really exciting to watch our citizens get excited and to get engaged civically and really want to continue to build on their success. That's something that you can't just go and buy at a store. It's something that you have to build from the ground up.
So if you're thinking about it, most likely you're in the same boat that I was in when I was thinking about it, and it means you should just go ahead and do it.
If you have the chance, take that chance.
I have loved the opportunity of being able to bounce ideas off of each other in a non-judgmental way.
I really want this to become a realization for Danville, to actually help them walk through all those divides and make this come into a realization.
Well, I'm just so thankful that Virginia Tech chose Patrick County as the pilot project because it has already made such a great impact in the community with the projects, our new restaurant, and the new ventures.
Once people really start to see the outcomes that are produced, they will embrace it wholeheartedly. That's what's going to be transformational for Patrick County.
I had the opportunity in June, in the time when we were vaccinated and we thought that everything was going to be back to normal, to go to Patrick County and to meet a lot of these people and to see a lot of work in action that they took through this Evolve program and in the shift workshops that they have done. And it's just extraordinary. And really, it just highlights the fact that when we're working within our own communities, we have everything we need. So here we are in Ohio, and Ohio has AIR certified facilitators that are ready to assist your community. Here's me, I'm over here, second row, and some of our other facilitators. These are with some West Virginia and some Kentuckians through the 2019 cohort. So how can you get involved? How can you bring AIR Institute to your community? How can you become an AIR Institute facilitator? And we'd love for you to go to our website, airinstitute.org/Ohio. And I am going to ask Kat to jump on to talk a little bit about Ohio specific.
Hello, everyone. Yes, so I am your OAC liaison to AIR Institute programming. So I am super excited to hear from you all, those that would like to have this, jump started in your community. We do have facilitators within the state that are ready to get out there and help you all divine the great talents that are already existing within your communities. Emily, what else do you want me to talk about?
Well, I think, Kat, do we want to open it up now?
Yeah, that's great. I'll be happy to moderate questions and throw them to you and Beth. And if there are things that I can answer, I'll help with that too.
Great.
But yeah, folks, if you have questions, now's a good time to ask them.
No one was prepared to go on camera. You don't have to go on camera to ask your question. You can put it in the chat or just speak if you're not camera ready. I know I was very thorough.
Yeah, you've stumped them all. They have no questions. You've answered everything. Chelsea agrees.
Could you describe in a little bit more detail what type of information we could find on your website so we know where to narrow down to look, so to say?
Yeah. Danielle, our website has also all of our programs. So you can start with going to you can go right to the Ohio page, first of all, and Katie put that in the chat. You can go to our home page and it'll show finding out more about our programs. And from there, you can literally see a digital version of all of our curriculum and what we do when we're leading a workshop, either the Arts Builds, Business Builds Art, the Shift Workshop, or Evolve. So it's dense, and you can spend some time there. But going to the Ohio page might be your first a good toe in the water. Does that make sense, Beth? Welcome back, Beth.
Yeah, well, we'll see if I can stay on. But what I was going to say is that if you're interested in being a facilitator, there's also a facilitator section that does detail more about what it takes to be a facilitator. And one of the things that I think is most powerful about the AIR program is that we train facilitators to really bring out the magic in communities in a couple of ways. And one is that we train and provide coaching for our facilitators to learn to not have the answer. So when they're working with communities, they're working with people who discover that they actually know what's best for their community, and that the projects that they design are not going to be told by their facilitator that, no, that's not possible, or you can't do that. Instead, we're really bringing out the creative genius and the community genius that's already in our places and in our creative, and people who think they're not creative. in those folks. And I think that's the magic part. When we run our facilitator trainings, it is interesting that even the most creative people who go through, who are, maybe professional artists or musicians, say, oh my gosh, I'm actually more creative now that I've gone through this training. So I think that facilitator training is a really powerful way to enhance your leadership skills. There will be very transferable skills that you'll learn to use in any organization or professional endeavor that's really focused on bringing out folks in a way that is special and unique. And hard also. So if any of you are like control freaks at all, like I know I am, it's hard because you have to let go of having the answer and learn to let people actually learn on their own instead of providing an answer and giving a test and making that happen. It's a very interactive process.
All right, we do have a couple of questions in the chat. I'm going to start out with the oldest one, the one that came in first from Chiquita Mullins-Lee, who said, I love the idea of the Athens-Nelsonville narrative project. What were the proposed and actual outcomes from the project? And I think, Emily, you are up for that one.
Great question, Chiquita. So we received funding initially from the Ohio Arts Council for I Am Nelsonville, this is the long version, which was an amalgamation of 3 of the projects that came out of our Nelsonville shift. So it seemed like every team was trying to answer the same question, which was healing a community divide. So we piloted the program and the outcome of it was to be community gathering, like bringing everyone together, both. So we had to redefine what that meant in March 2020. What did it mean to bring the community together? How can we have great big community dinners all together? From the 3, through the pilot process, we learned that the 3 projects needed to be 3 projects and to make them smaller. So if you follow, if you're like me, like I like to learn things by making mistakes and trying them. So even though the AIR Institute told us it needs to be small and it needs to be implementable, I was like, this could be giant and it's going to be amazing. It was amazing because we learned a lot. And we learned that they needed to be small and they needed to be implementable. So they split again. And the outcome of the storytelling portion was development of a curriculum for education, and participants, Nelsonville community members, can come to the studio at Stewart's Opera House and be part of a recording. And we also did a masterclass in storytelling that was available online. There were podcasting and storytelling classes for youth that were led by a Report for America volunteer that was serving in Nelsonville, and the community dinners ended up. Stewart's became a staging site to pass a food distribution center. So the ultimate outcome was deep learning, community engagement, building community trust, and the curriculum that was developed, which is being piloted this year. So
and I'd add one other thing, and because I'm not, because I don't live in Ohio, I think this is an outcome that's an important one for any of you who are thinking about using the AIR programs in your communities, is that one of the most important things that was, I think, really understood and learned from the cohort that went through that first shift workshop in Ohio is how important it is that the workshop be led by the community and not by outside folks. because it's the community that ultimately needs to have ownership and investment in the outcomes and in what it is that we need to accomplish. And so it's exciting to report that there's going to be another shift workshop in Nelsonville that is even more community led. It is not a combination of Nelsonville and Athens. It's only for Nelsonville. And I think sometimes that is hard to understand until you actually go through the program and realize, oh, we really are in charge. I didn't really believe we were in charge. And gosh, this is ours to succeed with. There's a question about costs and fees for the program. And Kat, I don't know if you want to talk about how the OAC underwrites this and talk about that a little bit.
Sure. So the OAC, being one of the partners of AIR, has signed up to train facilitators. So each year we're training two cohorts of 12 facilitators. So that's going to happen for a couple of years. And that is a huge investment from the OAC. Regarding the cost in communities, there are plenty of municipalities that have funds available for community development, and we dip into that and lean into that and look at funding sources that are sustainable and help community members learn what those are too, which is super powerful. But Beth, you're like the best at talking about this. I only do a kind of good job because I've listened to you so much, so I'm going to pass it back to you.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I think is really important, and you may remember seeing it on Emily's slide that talks about what we inspire when we use the creative economy growth process. And one of them is local investment. And I think most of us are, unfortunately in the arts, are in this place where we are stuck in scarcity and we are always feeling like we don't have enough, and that there couldn't possibly be enough money to do the things that we want to do. And what this program really helps unlock is, first of all, that if you start small, that you don't have to go find $1 million in order to get something going. But also what you find is that when you start to talk about the creative economy and you start to say, how can the arts help our community instead of, can you fund our performance? But instead start to think about this as a partnership, that more money comes into play than ever has been before. And that's the systemic change part that AIR is really triggering and designed to do. So being able to access economic development dollars that frankly the arts rarely get to play with. This program allows you to do that. So all of a sudden, chambers of commerce, economic development, agencies who have cash, y'all, there's money there. We just aren't tapping into it. So when we speak that language of creative economy and showing how much and how important we are to the actual economy, funds are coming into play. So we have witnessed all over. We're now in 11 states across the country in a variety of ways, which is exciting to see this unfolding, but every community is different. So in some communities, they've got seed money lined up and ready to go, and that's a part of the way that, that they want to see these programs unfold. In some communities, they've waited until the projects unfold to actually fund them, because they often discover that not only do these projects not cost $10,000, they may not cost anything because there are city agencies or county organizations that already are doing this work, but they didn't have a project. And so they're able to implement by providing staff time and existing resources that mean that these projects unfold. So the purpose is not to have like a fake program where we're designing a project that never really happens. That's the opposite of what this is, but it also really helps you tap into folks who frankly haven't been willing to invest in the arts. Does that answer, Kat, where you were going?
Yes. And then like the second part of one of those questions, we had a couple of questions about finance in the beginning. And I want to just close out with the last bit, which is what are community requirements to moving forward. And it is the community wants it. Like you have some folks there that are ready to get moving. They know that there are things to solve within that community, and there are creatives and business people that want to come through, learn more, and get activated through this work.
And one of the cool things is that we know that that's like the hardest thing. How can you tell if your community is ready? So that's what the ABBA or ABBA, depending apparently on where you live in Ohio, workshop is all about. Is that's a way to test what it is that that your community is interested in investing in. So after just 2 hours, there's a survey that allows you to really take the temperature of your community. First of all, how many people showed up? How many partners helped you organize the workshop itself? And then you literally take a survey of the people who participated to say, hey, do you want more of this programming? How would you like to work on the creative economy locally? And so you get some answers to those questions. And once you've done an ABBA workshop, if you'll know if you're ready to move on to shift and evolve, because you will have a bunch of people who are like, yes, we can do this, or maybe we need to talk about this some more. And that is, that's definitely the case. Not every community is ready for this work, and we don't want this to be a waste of anyone's time, which is why we put that ABBA workshop in as a first step, so that you really can take the temperature of your community and figure out what resources you feel like you need to have lined up. And the OAC is such a great partner in this, because they do want to get creative in finding ways to help fund and support the work, both the workshops themselves and the projects that come out. The facilitator training, though, maybe is a good point to point out, Kat. It doesn't cost anything. So that's something
it doesn't cost anything for the facilitators.
Right.
It does have cost. The OAC is investing money in these people to be facilitators. So just a quick qualification there. I think that it's so important for people to understand that the OAC is really investing in them, and those dollars are important. Yeah.
Yes, I was definitely not going to leave that there, Kat. I was going to say, because that's how the OAC is investing. They believe in this so much that they're essentially covering the cost for facilitators to go through the program. And AIR, you should contact Kat. That is your first place to start, Gwen, is to start with Kat. She's your first point of contact. And is a great way to sort of figure out what does the next step look like for you.
Emily, did you want to add something? You unmuted.
I can't remember one.
Okay, well then we have another question from Jared. Some really beautiful and powerful projects and programs have developed out of AIR leadership. Any favorites or standouts that you think really speak to the mission and vision of AIR?
So there are so many projects that fit the mission. There are trail projects. So a lot of times what a community will do is identify a couple of projects or areas that they're challenged by that they want to address. And then they design a couple of projects that are going to help meet that. So sometimes a community will focus on underutilized assets that they have. So trails that no one's using, or on the other side of that coin, that they're having an obesity issue in their community and they're trying to help people get more active. So those two messages together have designed some really cool trail programs that get people onto the trails, knowing about trails, also help build tourism. Another thing that came out of some of the early programs out west was a suicide prevention and awareness campaign. So sometimes campaigns are the kinds of projects that come out of AIR work as opposed to an actual event. So sometimes it's about marketing and educating and making awareness happen in communities. And now we're doing a whole lot of work that Jared is actually a part of to help us think about, how do we handle COVID? How do we handle the disasters that are striking with frightening numbers at this point? all over the country. And that's a really important piece for us to see unfolding as our work goes on too, is how can we really be impactful? So one last little project description is just that there was a project in Berea, Kentucky, that was a trail project that was about getting kids using the trails and literacy. So it's a once a month, a book is installed on a trail, page by page, and there are activities for parents and kids to go through as they walk along the trail. They're also reading the book. They're doing activities that go along with the book. And during COVID, there were a bunch of families posting about how this was the one safe way that they felt like they could have their grandkids and their grandparents together, doing something fun that felt safe. And so that was never the intention of that program at the beginning, but just seeing how powerful a program that is embraced locally. The library adopted the program, the city adopted the program. They paid for everything. So there wasn't even any money that was required because the city installed these cool things. The library manages the program, and once a month there's a volunteer board that helps pick out the book and get it installed. And that becomes an important mitigating factor when something like COVID comes to pass. So hope that gives you an idea about a couple of different kinds of projects that that have come out of the program.
That's great. We are just about at time, and to help wrap us up, I want to thank Emily and Beth very much for giving us this excellent information and giving those verbose kind of deep dives into amazing programs. And to truly wrap us up, I am going to hand it back to my esteemed colleague, Katie Monahan.
Thanks, Kat, and thank you so much, Beth and Emily. I'm just echoing everything Kat just said. That was a lot of really fantastic information. And we hopefully everyone who tuned in today feels inspired to unlock your community genius, whether it's becoming a facilitator or bringing the AIR Institute programming to your community. Please don't hesitate to reach out. Kat's contact information is available. I'm going to put this in the chat again on that Ohio page on the AIR Institute's website. She's about halfway down the page, so you can find her contact information there. Go ahead, reach out, get involved. I just wanted to remind everyone that if you missed any part of today's webinar, a recording will be available on our webinars page at oac.ohio.gov/webinars and on our YouTube channel. By the end of the week, we should be able to get it up there pretty quickly. I think that does it today, unless Emily and Beth have anything else to add. I think we are good. Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful rest of your week, and we will see you next time.